Hola, smooth skins and mungos, Sonuts here, and in this video we're going to be talking about the PC system requirements for Fallout 4 along with some other tidbits of information that we learned in a new article posted on Bethesda.net earlier today. So let's jump right into it, shall we? So, to be able to play Fallout 4 on your PC, at minimum you will need an Intel i5-2300 processor or the equivalent, and a NVIDIA GTX 550 Ti GPU or the equivalent. And the recommended specs are an Intel i7-4790 processor or the equivalent, and a NVIDIA GTX 780 GPU or the equivalent. Now, honestly, these specs are much higher than anticipated. I predicted that the recommended specs were going to be an Intel Core i5 series and a NVIDIA GTX 500 series, and I thought the minimum specs were going to be an Intel Core i3 series and a NVIDIA GTX 400 series. But what I thought was going to be the recommended has turned out to be the minimum. Now, the thing that sucks about this is my specs aren't that great. I have a GTX 660 and an i5 3470. Now, I know my specs are a little bit higher than the minimum, but nowhere close to the recommended. So that means playing on ultra settings and very high settings is pretty much out of the question for me. And I'm still worried that I'm not even going to be able to play on high settings with my specs. Now that would really suck, man. That would suck if I put all of my settings on high and then the frame rate was all janky and the game was just moving all slow like a slideshow, and then I had to lower all of my specs down to medium just to play through the game. Because that would basically be like playing on the 360 or the PS3, you know. I want to have a more advanced experience like all the other PC gamers that are balling out of control with i7s and Titan X's and 780s and 980s and shit like that, man. But I'm really hoping that I'm able to play on high settings, because that would be pretty much the equivalent to playing on the PS4 and Xbox One. So that would make me happy. That would be sufficient enough. I would be content with that until next year when I can finally upgrade my GPU and my CPU and be living the master race life like a true boss. But yeah, the main reason that I'm surprised by such high recommended specs is because the recommended specs for Skyrim was a quad-core Intel or AMD CPU and a GTX 260 or higher. Now those specs are so low, man. For a game that was as massive and detailed as Skyrim, for that to be able to be played on a GTX 260 or higher is astounding. You know, Bethesda really did a good job at compressing that game and optimizing it so that it was able to be played by pretty much everybody, no matter what type of PC they had. And the minimum specs for that game was a dual-core 2 GHz or equivalent processor and a DirectX 9.0C compliant video card. So you could pretty much play that game on low to medium settings using a desktop that you purchase from Best Buy or Walmart. Hell, you could probably play it on a desktop using a potato as a GPU if you wanted to. So that's why I was really surprised at how high the recommended specs were for Fallout 4. Now don't get me wrong, I know Fallout 4 is running on the new upgraded creation engine, which is going to use more RAM, more CPU power, and more GPU power. So of course the specs were going to be higher than Skyrim, but I just wasn't expecting that high. But regardless, I'm still going to be able to play the game, even if it's going to be on medium or high settings and not very high or ultra. So I'm just happy that I'm going to be able to play Fallout 4 at all. So anyways, let's move on to some more interesting information in the article. So we learned about the release time. So we know that we're going to be able to play Fallout 4 in North America at 12:01 a.m. Eastern Time on November 10th, 2015. Hoorah! And in Asia, they have to wait till 12 a.m. on Wednesday, November 11th. And sadly for the Japanese, Fallout 4 won't become available until 12 a.m. on Thursday, December 17th, which is a week before Christmas. So at least it'll be an early Christmas present to all, you know, the Japanese Fallout fans around the world. But anyways, the thing that I don't see here is anything about preloading. Like nowadays, most digital games, especially AAA, allow you to preload the game a couple of days before the release. That way, as soon as it becomes available, you just double click your shortcut and you're playing the game. But there's nothing about a preload in this article. And that would suck if Bethesda did not allow a preload and made it where everybody had to download 30 gigabytes of data on release day. Because there's so many people who are going to want to just be able to click the game and play it as soon as it becomes midnight on November 10th. And there's also a lot of people out there with slow internet, and it's going to take them fucking 10-15 hours to download 30 gigabytes of data. So hopefully Bethesda realizes that and allows a preload 3-4 days before release. Now, they might not though. They might be worried that there's going to be hackers that are going to preload the game and then start digging into the files and finding information about the game and start spoiling it on Reddit and Facebook and Twitter and shit like that. And you know how Bethesda is about their games. They don't want anything spoiled unless they're spoiling it. And they don't want anything spoiled until release day. So that could be a concern of theirs, and that could be the reason why we're not seeing anything about a preload. But I don't know. I think since it is such a massive game, it is an incredibly popular game, it's going to get a preload option a couple days before release. Same thing that happened with Metal Gear Solid 5, The Witcher 3, you know, all those other ones. And that's pretty much all the important information in the article. We learned that Fallout 4 does have a plug-and-play compatibility with both Xbox One and Xbox 360 controllers. There will be Steam achievements, and the Pip-Boy app will become available on November 10th, and it talks about all the different phones that'll fit in the Pip-Boy edition, but sadly I did not get the Pip-Boy edition, so I don't give two shits about that. Yeah, that's about it, people. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. We learned some good information. I predicted that we were going to get the PC specs this week, because last week I posted in one of the Fallout Facebook groups, and I was like, I guarantee you we're going to get the PC specs next week, and booyah, they did it. So, you know, I feel good about that. I feel good that I predicted the specs. But anyways, I'll catch you guys on the next video. You guys kick ass, and sayonara, Wastelanders.